Jai Swaminarayan. Today we are reading Loyā 8 of the Vachanāmrut. This passage is titled Eradicating the Overexcitability of the Indriyas and Accepting Only Words Related to One's Inclination. Indriyas refer to our sense organs in Sanskrit. On the night of Magh Shar Sudhi the 5th, Samvat 1877, or the 10th of December 1820, Shriji Maharaj was sitting in Surra Khachar's darbar in Loyā. He was wearing a white case and had tied a white feto around his head. He was also wearing a white dagli made of chint. At that time, an assembly of Paramhansas as well as devotees from various places had gathered before him. Thereupon, Muktanand Swami asked Shriji Maharaj, on seeing some inappropriate Swabhavs, some deep-seated impressions or perhaps poor habits that are still being resolved, of a sadhu, of a monk, one who is thoughtless may perceive flaws in the sadhu. But why does one who is wise perceive flaws in the sadhu? Shriji Maharaj replied, if a person is wise and has noticed an inappropriate swabhav within themselves, and while harboring an intense aversion towards it, is continually endeavoring to overcome that swabhav, then when they see that very same swabhav towards, in another sadhu, they develop an aversion towards that sadhu. On the other hand, a fool, a goofball, not only does not overcome their own swabhavs, but when they see that same swabhav in another sadhu, they perceive flaws in that sadhu. Such a person should be considered a fool, a goofball. Then Shriji Maharaj gathered the junior Paramhansas, and he himself asked and answered questions. First, he asked the intensity and mildness of the force of lust, anger, avarice, and other intense enemies is due to the phases of childhood, youth, and old age. In what way? Well, in childhood, the force is weak. In youth, the force is intense. Then in old age, the force becomes weak again. Thus, the intensity and mildness of lust, anger, etc. can be noticed, but can they be weakened by any thought process? Shriji Maharaj himself replied, the force of lust, anger, etc. can be weakened by a thought process, which is as follows. The mildness of those swabhavs in childhood, their greater intensity in youth, and mildness once again in old age is due to food. Specifically, in childhood, since the dietary intake is small, the force of lust is mild. Similarly, in old age, one's dietary intake is small, so again the force of lust is mild. But in youth, as the dietary intake increases, lust also increases. Therefore, in youth, if one's food intake is decreased, and if one deliberately tolerates cold, heat, rain, and hunger, then by maintaining such a thought process, and by maintaining profound association with the great sant or saint, the force of lust is weakened, even in the period of youth. Again, Shriji Maharaj asked, people become addicted to many different types of things. For example, bhang, marijuana, opium, alcohol, etc. Are these addictions due to one's kriyamana or prarabdha karmas? That is to say, this is due to our karmas that we are creating in this life. or due to karmas that are unfolding since past endless lifetimes. Replying, Shriji Maharaj said, these addictions are developed not by prarabdha, but by habit. Therefore, if one maintains courage, keeps shraddha, which is trust or faith, and becomes adamant on overcoming the addiction, then it can be overcome. But if one has no shraddha and is cowardly, then that vice cannot be overcome. Then Shriji Maharaj asked, some children have a mature nature, like elder people, whereas some have an extremely fidgety nature. Is that nature due to company, or is it inherent within their jiva, within their soul? Shriji Maharaj answered, for the most part, a good or bad nature is due to the company one keeps, but in some cases it is due to past karmas. Then Kapileshwaranand Swami asked, Maharaj, how can one recognize a swabhav which has formed previously? And how can one recognize a swabhav which has formed recently? Shriji Maharaj replied, a recently formed swabhav is overcome by staying in the company of a pious sadhu and by making a little effort to eradicate it. Just as grass growing on a wall dries up when there is no rain for 5 days, similarly, a recently formed swabhav can be overcome in a few days. However, an established swabhav can barely be overcome, even after one makes a great effort to eradicate it. For example, if there are strong weeds or a bordi tree in the soil, then even if they are set on fire and burnt by a farmer, they will still re-sprout. But if one uses a hoe to uproot them from their roots, they can be removed. Similarly, if one remains in the company of a pious sadhu and perseveres with great effort, with great effort, even an established swabhav can be overcome, but only with great effort. Then Shriji Maharaj asked, for one whose Indriyas are overly excitable, whose senses, what are the individual methods by which that excitability can be overcome? Shriji Maharaj replied, to overcome the excitability of the eyes, a person should fix their gaze on the tip of their nose and not look elsewhere. They should continue to study while studying, and they should also engage in worship. While doing this, if they continue to keep their eyes open without blinking for half an hour or so, until their eyes begin to burn intensely and tears flow, and they do not harbor a debased thought, even if they happen to notice a person they're attracted to or other objects, then, even if their eyes are excitable, they will become controlled. The nose does not like the odors coming from someone's body, mouth, or clothes. At that time, a person should think, my own body appears attractive superficially, but it is filled with blood, flesh, and bones, and in the abdomen there are feces, urine, and intestines. If they think in this way, the overexcitability of the nose is eradicated. The overexcitability of the ears can be eradicated as follows. When some humorous talks are ongoing or a folk drama is being performed, one develops a keen interest to listen to them. Whereas, while listening to the discourses and devotional songs relating to God, one falls asleep. In that situation, one should rise and subdue sleep and lethargy. One should also keep faith and maintain a keen interest in listening to the discourses of God. Thereby the ears can be controlled. The sense of touch can be controlled by deliberately tolerating the cold, heat, and rain, by lying down anywhere, by keeping a blanket as a pillow and using it for covering the body only when one feels very cold. Thereby, the skin becomes numbed and the overexcitability of the sense of touch is eradicated. To overcome the overexcitability of the hands, whenever the hands are idle, one should keep a rosary in one's hand and turn it while chanting the name of God in rhythm while inhaling and exhaling of one's breath. One should not, however, turn the rosary hurriedly. Some say one can chant the name of God more quickly mentally, but that principle is wrong because, in actuality, the mind can chant the name of God only as many times as the tongue can chant the name of God. So by applying this method, the overexcitability of the hands is eradicated. If the legs are overly active, they can be controlled by controlling one's sitting posture. Overly excitable organs of procreation can be controlled as follows. When one gets scabies or ringworm, and one scratches oneself, the itching is not relieved until bleeding occurs. However, if one does not scratch the affected area, then the itching subsides by itself. Thus, even if an itching sensation arises, for example, on the organs of procreation, it should not be scratched. Moreover, in the case of it becoming frequently excited, if one decreases one's diet, observes fasts, and physically weakens the body, then the organs of procreation can be controlled. To conquer the tongue, it should not be given items that it likes, and one's diet should be restricted. Thereby, the overly excitability of the tongue is eradicated. Finally, the overactivity of one's speech can be eradicated by not interrupting with wise remarks when people, like Muktanand Swami, are speaking or narrating from a scripture. Moreover, if one does happen to interrupt, one should turn a rosary 25 times. Thereby, the overactivity of speech can be eradicated. Then Sriji Maharaj asked, of all these Indriyas, which one, if fully controlled, leads to control over all of the other Indriyas? Sriji Maharaj answered his own question. If the tongue is fully subdued, then all of the other Indriyas can be subdued. Again, Sriji Maharaj asked, if lust overwhelms a person's heart, and even though their organs of procreation are covered by their clothes, how can one realize that they have been pervaded by lust? Sriji Maharaj himself replied, when lust pervades a person, their eyes and all of their other Indriyas become overly excited. Thereby, one can realize that they have become overwhelmed by lust. Once again, Sriji Maharaj asked, one who has an overactive nature should become calm, and one who has a calm nature should become active. By which thought process can this be achieved? Sriji Maharaj himself replied, if a person who is overactive thinks, I am the Atma, Brahman, genderless and stable like Akash, space. And by the way, here Brahman refers to Brahmarup, having a form through which the ultimate expresses themselves, since we are part of manifest nature of that ultimate divinity. And they attain the upsham state through such thoughts, then they become calm. If a person who is calm wishes to become more active, then they should realize the glory of God and their devotees. When they realize the glory of God, they engage in the 9 types of bhakti and performs the menial service of the devotees of God. Consequently, their nature becomes more active. Then Sriji Maharaj asked, "Is there anything in the 8 scriptures, such as the Srimad Bhagavat, etc., which should be disregarded, or should everything be imbibed?" Replying to his own question, Sriji Maharaj said, "In all of those scriptures, there are countless incidents, and through all of those incidents, the inclinations of the devotees who have attained God are described. Therefore, they are all suitable to be imbibed. However, among all of these incidents, only those incidents that match one's own inclination should be imbibed. The others, however, may be disregarded with the understanding. These talks are true, but they are for the benefit of other devotees. They are not for me." Once more, Sriji Maharaj asked, "All of you youngsters are seated here, and from amongst you, all of the sadhus certify some, and do not certify others. Now, all of you are of a similar age, and all have the same company. In fact, all have the same food, clothing, mode of worship, scriptures, and mantra, and all listen to the same spiritual discourses. What then is the reason for the difference in levels amongst you? Moreover, one who is a sadhu observes dharma completely, is unbiased, and views all equally. Hence, they would describe everyone as they truly are. So please answer the question." Again, Sriji Maharaj supplied the reply, "Only one who has shraddha, has faith, has trust, is praised by a sadhu, and that is also why they observe dharma more staunchly. Also, they have shraddha in serving the sant and in listening to the talks of God. They also have faith in the sant. Therefore, they have progressed. On the other hand, one who has not progressed despite staying in such association should be known to lack shraddha." All right. Thank you for listening to Loyā 8 of the Vachanāmrut. Jai Swaminarayan.